Okay, hi guys. You can unmute yourself to talk back to me, so I don't feel like I'm talking to myself.
Hi.
Oh, you're talking to
Hi.
us.
I feel like you popped up, so now I have to talk to you guys. So welcome everybody to the HBCU Alumni in STEM panel. I am joined by so many really great people, and I'm gonna have everybody introduce themselves to you, tell them a bit about themselves, and then we'll start getting to the good stuff. So, who wants to go first? Or do I have to pick you guys? Can I pick you or?
Yeah, you should probably
Yeah,
pick.
you should pick.
First, let me tell the people my name is Kiara Whittle. I am a graduate of Clark Atlanta University, where I got my bachelor's in chemistry. I am currently in pursuit of my master's in biomedical sciences. And now let's get to this beautiful panel, and we'll start with Stefan because I haven't seen Stefan in so long, and I'm so excited he's here. So, hey, Stefan.
Hello, hi. My name is Stefan, as she says. I know Kiara because she was a mentee in my lab back at Clark Atlanta University. So I have my bachelor's degree from Florida State University in chemistry. I received my PhD in chemistry from Clark Atlanta University. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm here to answer questions and discuss various topics. So glad to be here.
Oh, all right, Christina, you up?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christina Chisholm. I'm originally from Philadelphia. I got my bachelor's in chemistry from the first HBCU. I know we might have a debate about that, but I'll debate until I'm blue in the face. The first degree granted HBCU. I then went on to University of Massachusetts Amherst, where I graduated with my PhD in molecular and cellular biology, focusing on just biophysics, but now I do something completely different away from the bench, and I'm the assistant director of the McNair Scholars Program at Hunter College.
Gabriel.
Hey, my name is Gabriel. I'm from Prince George's County, Maryland. Originally, I went to school at North Carolina A&T for my bachelor's, master's, and PhD in electrical engineering. Uh, I'm interested in all things STEM, education, art. So, hoping to have a pretty good discussion here tonight.
Donella. Unmute. Friend.
Is that me?
Yes, that's you.
Oh, okay, sorry, it went in and out. Hi, everyone. My name is Donella. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I graduated from Spelman College with my bachelor's in biology pre-med. I have my master's in clinical pathology. I am currently a medical technician, and I am applying to medical school.
And last, of course, but certainly not least, Kendra.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kendra Royston. I'm originally from all over, so it's a complex story. You can ask me later. I got my bachelor's from Stillman College in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, in biology. And I moved on to the University of Alabama at Birmingham for my PhD in cancer biology, where my focus was breast cancer chemoprevention. And then I went on and completed my postdoc at the University of Chicago in the Division of Hematology and Oncology. Now I work at Eli Lilly and Company as a publications planning associate consultant. And I think that's it. Oh, I do have a nonprofit organization that is a 501c3 tax exempt organization called Stupid Science Incorporated, where we are very interested in diversifying the face of STEM. So we give no nonsense advice to teenagers and college age students interested in STEM.
Oh, this wonderful black magic here. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's start. What motivated you guys to be in STEM fields in the first place? Anyone can go. Just give each other the floor when it's their time to talk.
I'll start.
Okay.
Uh, so for me, it was it was honestly just dumb luck. Um, so I'm not sure how it is in other places, but specifically in Prince George's County, Maryland, a lot of the opportunities to work or not work, but participate in STEM programs at the grade school level, they require some sort of examination. Um, and so for me, throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, I was taking exams to get into STEM programs, and I had no idea they were even for that. I was just sort of taking exams. Um, and, you know, just by a fluke, I ended up in a pre-engineering program. Um, and yeah, the rest was kind of history from there.
Anyone else want to take a gander?
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
My story, I guess, is kind of similar to Gabriel's. It was kind of like I just fell into it a little bit. So my high school years, I was good in chemistry, and I think it just happened because I was feeling really challenged about it. And I remember my high school chemistry teacher just pushing me, and she just would always suggest like you should study science, you should study science. So when I applied to college, it just happened that there was a summer bridge program that was available at Lincoln, and the chemistry professor was really pushy, and the biology department was super pushy, and they just kind of pushed me into it. They looked at my grades and they said, have you thought about, trying out science? And I was going in as political science major. And I think I just was like, what's the harm in trying? So I just kind of fell into it, if you will.
I had a bomb chemistry teacher. That's how I got here. He was great. We had this research science program in high school, and all the teachers were great. And then we participated in this national science fair. And I was like, yes, this is it. This is how it's going to happen. It's this from now on. And then I landed at CAU, and here I am. Anyone else want to talk about their motivation?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So I'll be the oddball or the odd man out. So I knew pretty early on that I wanted to have a career in medicine, but I didn't know how I was going to get there. And so I told my mom that I wanted to be a baby doctor. And so she was like, well, a pediatrician or OBGYN, which one? I'm like, I don't know. So she gave me a bunch of Grey's Anatomy books, and I would look at the pictures and read about health science and things of that nature. And so when I made my way to high school, I participated in the Upward Bound Math and Science program in Huntsville, Alabama. And that gave me the opportunity to be exposed to research at Alabama A&M University and the University of Alabama at Huntsville, or in Huntsville. And I participated in those summer research programs, but I wasn't sold. I still thought I was going to go to medical school. By the time I got to Stillman, I majored in biology so I could get my med school prerequisites. And if I'm frank, I just didn't prepare for the MCAT like I should have. And so I thought that, okay, I'm going to go and get my master's degree and wait. And then UAB ended up giving me a fellowship to pursue my PhD. And they said, if you decide to get the PhD, we'll fund it. And I said, well, no harm, no foul. I like science. And I participated in some summer research programs in the lab that I did get my PhD in. And so I knew that I liked the research there. And once I got into it, I fell in love with the mission. We were focused on disparities, research, targeting underrepresented groups who were disproportionately affected by breast cancer mortality. And so I got the opportunity to do that. And then, and so landed at U Chicago, spent about a year there before I said the basic science is not for me anymore. So that sums it up.
Stephanie, you want to take a crack at it, or you want to move forward?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go. So pretty much growing up, I grew up in Florida, and all my family would call me Doc. Mathis. I guess they just figured I was smart. I just, did my work, and one day I just knew I wanted to make money, and they kind of also, and for some reason, I guess through media, you just think doctors make money, I don't know. So I get to, undergrad, I want to do, well, growing up, I wanted to be this type of scientist for dinosaurs, this kind of scientist for geology, whatever. But when I finally got to college, I was like, I want to do anesthesiology. I tell you, I took an anatomy class. I was like, nah, I'm not doing anesthesiology anymore. So I realized that I excelled at chemistry and physics. Then after dropping out of that anatomy and physiology and not doing any more of those, I decided to pursue chemistry and bachelor's, and then went to work. After my bachelor's, I was like, this ain't it either. I got to get a higher education if I really want to, manage or whatnot. So then I went back to school for my PhD in chemistry. Here I am.
Oh, all right. Okay, so why an HBCU? Of course, there's really great STEM programs at other institutions, but what made you pick an HBCU, and how did it benefit you in the long run?
I'm gonna hop in there real quick.
You go ahead. Get it off. I know. Get it off.
So, like, why not an HBCU? Stillman offered me a full scholarship. That wasn't the only reason why I went. When I went to the campus, it was very small. It seemed very personable. I felt that it was a very familial atmosphere. I felt like I was going to be taken care of. My mom felt the same way. They prepared me for the world. They taught me how to articulate myself. They taught me how to dress well. They taught me how to present myself on the grand stage for any opportunity. And I don't think that I would have gotten that anywhere else. One particular thing that stands out to me, it wasn't even in a science class, it was in an English class. And I had an English professor say, you got a C on this project. I'm like, but my paper was, it may have been better than everybody else's, but why are you comparing yourself to your peers? You need to be your own, you need to challenge yourself. And so I'm challenging you based on your skill level, and you did not meet the bar. You can do better. And so I was upset, but then I look back at that moment, I'm just like, in any other situation, would I have been challenged at an individual level? And I don't think so. And I'm able to say that I know that I wouldn't have, because I've gone to PWIs after my HBCU, and nothing compares to that experience.
Speak on it, please. Speak on it. Anyone else? Why they chose their HBCU?
Yeah.
I think.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. Sure. I was just going to say it was exposure. So I didn't even think of HBCUs at first. To be quite honest, I'll be frank, I was just looking at the money sign. So I knew my parents were not going to give me a lot of money to go off to college. I knew I did not have a trust fund for college. So I was literally looking at it to dollar signs. And I think I went on it was a Black college tour that completely changed my outlook on just colleges and just the whole HBCU experience in itself. And the funny part about it is I didn't even tour Lincoln. Lincoln just kind of popped on my radar. So it was like the serendipitously, like I just fell into Lincoln's lap, and they gave me a full ride. They took care of me. They had programs in place to make sure that I was going to be set in my major that I was studying. I remember freshman year, I used to be annoyed at this, but now I think back and I chuckle, and I'm appreciative of it. I had a general chemistry professor, and he would call your room at 8:30 in the morning if you was not in the classroom, and he'd be like, well, where are you? You will not get that anywhere else. People will come knocking on your doors, to wake you up. Like, yes, the class is at 8:00, but you're not here. So what's the problem? And so it was a level of nurture that I've never felt. And it was really like I joined this big family. It was, I never felt in competition with my peers in my classrooms. I thrive in small environments. So I didn't have a huge class size. Going to PWIs, you have 500 people in the class for intro to bio, intro to chemistry class. That's a lot for me. So this is the direct connection and really much helping you along the way. There are still professors that check in on me now to this day to make sure I'm doing what I need to do. math professors. He loves to call. Likes to write letters too. Dr. Goronagasi. Chisholm, make sure you're doing this. Are you eating vegetables and drinking lots of water? Like, so that level of care you don't get anywhere else. I don't know why he still cared to check in on me, but I appreciate it and I love it. And I'm glad that I got that, experience where I had people really pushing me and making sure I was good on, just an individual, personal, a complete holistic need. And I think I definitely needed that. So
I feel you on that. I learned about the HBCU.
That's excellent. And similar.
Huh? Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kira. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I learned about.
No, I was just gonna go after.
Sure, we can. I learned about the HBCUs from the HBCU fair at Riverbank State Park. Clark Atlanta was the only school that did not waive the application fee. The only school. Everybody else was like, here, sign the application, do this, do that. Good, you in. Here come Clark Atlanta being difficult. And my mother was like, I don't think you should go there. So I'm like, all right, fine. Of course, I went to Atlanta. I visited the school after I got in. I stepped foot on campus and I fell in love. I went to the chemistry department. I was like, oh, yes, this is it. I met the chair of the department at the time was Dr. Parker. That was it. Like, I knew it. That was it. Go ahead, Stephen.
Thank you. Yeah, so for me, I did like I said, my bachelor's was at Florida State University, which is a PWI. And living in Tallahassee, Florida State and FAMU, they're sister schools, right? Well, going to Florida State, as was mentioned previously, it was like we were sheep, being herded around where it was like us mass and we just moved. But I realized I would hop on FAMU's campus like for the set and during lunch hour. And I mean, it just seemed like it was a family over there. And I was accepted over there just like anybody else. So I was on FAMU's campus, hanging out, having fun. I even had my roommate had some African-American history classes. So I would go to class with him on times I had not much to do. And I just enjoyed being on FAMU's campus to where I said, if I'm going back to school, if I ever do, I'll definitely choose an HBCU. And sure enough, I had an acquaintance who recruited me. She was like, hey, I heard you want to pursue your doctorate. Clark Atlanta University has funds and they could pay for your school. She gave me a contact to Dr. Ishraq Khan at the time, who was a polymer chemistry professor. And the rest is history. And I haven't looked back, and it was such a great decision for me to go to Clark and apply to Clark. So that's kind of how I got to HBCU.
Anybody else before we move it along?
So for me, like everything else, it was somewhat of a fluke. So like in high school, I had an internship with the power company in DC, and my mentor there and another one of actually two of the other interns there went to A&T, and so similar to Christina, I was just going wherever it was free or close to free. Because I was the youngest of four, so all the money ran out, with my older sister. So it's funny because the only reason I applied to A&T was because of my mentor. And then randomly, my advisor had emailed out like a scholarship application for a full ride. And I mean, it was the most basic scholarship application you'll ever fill out. It's literally just your information, your SAT scores, and your GPA, and that was it. And so I filled that out. I got that scholarship. I also had like a full ride to Ohio State, and I didn't all this was kind of fast, so I didn't really have time to visit either school. But personally, I just love Black people, and I love being Black. I love Black spaces, and so it was a no-brainer for me with A&T, and it ended up being the best decision I've ever made.
I think everybody's HBCU is the best decision they've ever made. And speaking of loving Black people so much, what is one of the biggest challenges you as a Black person face in a STEM field? Whether it was in academia or your professional setting right now.
Oh, so man, one thing. So I actually have two things, but one is a bit obvious, and that's um, being the minority. Um, there aren't a lot of purely or predominantly Black STEM spaces, like even in academia, even at HBCUs. Um, so that was big for me, but that was something I found I fit like that was a challenge I faced like on the tail end. But early on, it's the mentality that just because you're Black, just because you have this opportunity, that you should be grateful, even if it's not um, fulfilling or satisfactory, or even if it doesn't meet your standards, right? So, you know, this is something I got a lot of pushback on, interning and working for different companies. And I mean, these are Fortune 500 companies that they love to brag about, being this great organization. But it's like, this experience is trash, right? And so, going to my mentors and, my managers and speaking with them about it, nothing ever got addressed. Um, and so when I acted on my own, it became like this whole big thing. But um, I'd say the biggest thing is, speaking up for yourself, even when nobody else is willing to. Um, yeah, I'll just end it right there.
You hit it all on the head. We was all sitting here like, yup, that happened. Anybody else has a challenge they want to chime in?
Yeah, for me, it was not. It was feeling like I didn't belong. And even though I had spent my summers at UAB, that was just 2 or 3 months out the year. And so when I started to attend UAB year round, full time, some spring, summer, fall, it really it took some time trying to make myself believe that I deserved to be there. There were some people who had negative stereotypes about my alma mater, and so I struggled with imposter syndrome. And then I realized that nobody knew as much about my research as I did. I'm paving the way in this very specific area, so nobody knows anything about it except me. So that increased my confidence. So that was something that I had to struggle with and conquer, was gaining confidence and feeling alone. I think in my cohort, there were five, so PhD cohorts are relatively small, but there were five new students in the biology department, and I was the only minority in my cohort. And then in the whole program, there were only two other Black students in the program. And so feeling alone, feeling isolated, and really missing the bonds that I had established at Stillman. I think those were the biggest hurdles to accomplish, to overcome.
Anyone else? Actually, Christina, I was just getting ready to call you. I
Mhm.
want you to tell us also about your challenges, but I want you to tap in on being a Black woman in STEM. I should have told you to do that too, Kendra. But I know for me, being always probably one of the youngest in the lab, then being a woman, then being Black, adds all these problems on one on top of the other, one on top of the other, because either they think you can't do it, you're not qualified to do it, you really don't belong here. I've been GPA checked up and down the board at jobs just because someone wanted to downplay my work or something like that. So I want you to touch on that just a little bit.
I think, okay. So, what I was going to say before I lose my train of thought, but it kind of ties both into what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it comes from learning how to advocate for yourself. So, I think being a Black woman in STEM, it's it's like this. You would have thought you were a unicorn because they're like, oh, you're so smart. Oh, you're so this. Oh, you're so that. And then you also become like the representative for all things Black, which I did not sign up to be. I just came to get an education. And then on top of it, because you're a woman, you get undermined, you get overtalked, you get passed over or looked over. And then also you have to put on the face of what it looks like to be Black in science. I don't know what that is, or be a woman in science, or to be in science. So I think it's kind of learning how to set boundaries, like healthy boundaries, which a lot of people do not have in STEM fields. Just to be very frank, there's a lot of gray area, and I don't think I was ready for that when I got in, and I was like, okay, this is a lot. So I think it was, for me, I was taught growing up knowing how to advocate for myself. But I think because I went to a HBCU, it was that level of, teaching you how to speak up for yourself and not feeling bad about it, where I relate to Kendra. I had imposter syndrome probably up until probably my actual, like, I think my third, like my last qualifying exam. Like, it was kind of just like, okay, I finally made it. Like, I got candidacy. Okay, I'm safe. And it was like, well, why did I feel like that? Why did I feel like I did not belong? Why did I feel like I was, this number, this quota for diversity that they had to fill? And I think for me, I had a very interesting experience where I had another person of color in my cohort, another Black girl, and they would pin us against each other. She was, originally from the islands. I'm from the States. And they would always compare us like, oh, well, you do this and so does that. You dress like this and so does that. And it would be, so just annoying, beyond annoyed I would be. And I think I had to learn to really dig deep, separate a lot of things, the white noise, block that out, everything people were saying, and kind of learn to put people in their places respectfully. And I think with learning how to create those healthy boundaries, knowing that I was there for a reason, that there was nobody else built like me. If there was, they would have had somebody else there, but they didn't. So I'm there for a reason. And then just really being comfortable being me and not feeling, like I had to kind of step inside the shell and not speak up too loud or too boisterous about who I was and the reason I was there. So, did I answer any of your questions?
You did.
Okay.
You did great. You did great.
I really think that Christina did a great job at hitting everything on the head. I wanted to add that I remember feeling so low at one point that I wanted to quit. And the person who was supposed to be mentoring me told me I should quit, told me I was a charity case, that I didn't belong in the program. And I think at that point, I pulled on the strength of my ancestors. And I said, all right, thank you. And he looked at me confused, like, thank you. I was like, no, you told me exactly how you feel about me. You showed me that I'm just a number. I'm a diversity supplement for your R01 grant. I don't matter to you, but I'm about to prove you wrong. And I'm about to make you throw up my name. Every time there's an accolade, Kendra Royston, first place on the poster presentation. Kendra Royston, best abstract. Kendra Royston, NSF, Kendra Royston, Coleman Fellowship. Kendra Royston, publication, 9 publications. You are going to puke my name because you said that I was a charity case. And I think at that point, I learned that I have to do this for me. And I have to do this knowing that I might not have any other support. And my family, even though they were supportive and they were proud, they didn't understand where I was. And they were like, Kendra, you smart, you got this. Like, I'm depressed, bro. And that's not to discourage anybody from going into the field, but you have to have a thick skin. And I think that we are trying to get some regulation and some checks and balances on these old white men who are stuck in these tenure positions, who have this archaic way of thinking. But, go to an HBCU. There are several HBCUs that have top programs. HBCUs are known to produce the most qualified STEM professionals. Maybe you won't be surprised, but you'd be surprised how many Black people are products of HBCUs who have their doctorates, who are well respected in their field. I know you all are familiar with Dr. Hadia Nicole Green, who is a professor now at Morehouse. she started at an HBCU. And so I think that it's important to recognize how impactful, if not that start, that finish is, that refinement at that HBCU institution.
Right? I was just like, I don't even know what to say after that one. Stefan, you want to touch on your feelings towards it and then kind of incorporate like the importance of Black men in this field also, because we do need to see more Black men in a lot of these positions.
Absolutely. So I'll weigh in just a little, including some of my experiences. Currently, I work as a senior material program manager at the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. So I'm a government employee. And I think one of the biggest hurdles is just when I've walked into rooms, it felt like I've had to prove myself that I even deserve to be at these executive meetings and meetings where we would meet with contractors or I managed $30+ million contracts. And so a lot of times I lead these programs, and due to my youth and being Black, and they see Dr. Seth on the paper, they look at the paper, like, oh, that's you. But I think just for me, just proving myself, and I've noticed that I have to go to conferences and things of that nature as a government employee. And most of the time when people see my badge, they're looking and staring, like, oh, wow, and I'm like, why are you looking at my badge? Like, why are you staring me down like that? I deserve to be in this space just as much as you do. And I don't usually, treat people like that off initial contact. And I've noticed too that a lot of times when I have a conversation with someone at a conference or someone I've met initially, they'll start off with very high level jargon of chemistry. Like they want to start the conversation with these big words and things. And so I hang with them. I'm like, okay, this. And then after that, we start talking about sports. And like, we could have started off with sports. You don't have to start off to test whether my knowledge of chemistry or whatever this particular subject is. Like, I do deserve to be here. And one quick instance, I was a part of a meeting when we were starting a program at the BEP, and I was talking with the contracting officer, who's a big wig at our job. And I started telling him about our program, and he turns to the rest of the room. It's like 10 people in there. He says, oh, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I'm like, why wouldn't I? Like, I'm the lead program manager. Why wouldn't I know what I'm talking about? I was put here for a reason. So I think just the microaggressions, the small things you notice when how people approach you initially, and they're just shocked for you to be there as a Black male. And I also noticed, being a young Black man in government, most of my colleagues are older white men, and most of them have probably never spoke to young Black men as much as they spoke to me, maybe in their entire life. Maybe in their entire educational matriculation, going to PWIs, they've probably never met a guy like me, or just had long conversations with a person like me. So I get it. It's a mystery of some type or some sort. But as my new colleagues here have mentioned before, you deserve to be there, and I had to remember that myself and walk in there with confidence, because most people won't have confidence in you to know what you know, or to believe that you know what you know, until you start to speak and articulate what you need to say and what you need to do.
I love it.
Can I just say one small thing?
I know it.
So I agree 1000% with everything that's been said so far. But another thing that is very important is that not only do you belong there in most cases, but sometimes you're legitimately too good to be where you are. So if if you ever feel the urge or the need to get up and walk away and find something better. And if you can't find anything better, then create something better, because the opportunities are out there, and you're more than capable of doing that.
That's exactly how I am at my job now. I sat down at the interview, and the person interviewing me looked at my resume, looked at me, and he's like, why do you want to be here? And at first I was like, what are you trying to say? And he goes, you are way too overqualified for this. I don't even think you'll stick around more than a week. And I was like, huh, you know, I'm here for the challenge, whatever. 6 months later, here I am with a promotion and managing people. So, I mean, you just got to put your foot in and cause a ruckus a little bit. So, being what you guys know now, and we're talking to high school students, what is something you would tell your younger self when it comes to diving into the STEM fields? Because when we're younger, a lot of people think, oh, the science kids are nerds. You shouldn't be this smart. At one point it was kind of not cool to be smart. Now it's cool to be smart. Like we're flipping a little bit. So what is something you would tell someone that's embarrassed to show, yeah, I like science. I like to do this. I like to do that. Or I like engineering. I like math. Like a lot of people don't like math, whatever. But yeah, so what is something you would tell your younger self or the high schoolers that are watching?
Y'all, don't worry about fitting in. Be you. Middle fingers to the haters. Like, no, I'm such a dork and a nerd, and I worried so much about making friends and fitting in, and I realized it's insignificant. The moment I started embracing who I was and just being myself was the moment that people started gravitating toward me naturally. So just be you, be confident, and be comfortable in you, whoever that is. And I know, like as a teenager, you're probably still figuring it out, but be okay with liking weird stuff. Like I was listening to Evanescence and Linkin Park and a bunch of weird stuff back then. So
I love it. Anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, like Kendra said, just be yourself. Um, that's very important. One, because if somebody's truly your friend, then you want them to be your friend because they they genuinely like who you genuinely are, right? So if you're pretending to be somebody else and they're your friend because of that, then they're not really your friend. Um, and then two, like regardless of what's going on the outside, as long as you're making decisions and you're pursuing things based on your passion and what you feel your purpose in life, like everything will work out. Um, yeah.
Anyone else before I ask the next question? Going once, going twice. Sold. Okay.
Okay, can y'all hear me? Wait,
Yes.
wait, wait, wait.
Wow. Hi, Donella. Did you get it over there?
Okay,
We can hear
because
you.
I can't even tell when y'all are finished speaking or nothing. I don't know what's going on. But I'm currently on my way home from work, as you can tell. But
Sure.
if it's still on the
Tell me a story.
same question
Yeah, tell me a
of
story.
what would you
Actually,
tell your
no,
younger
tell me.
self?
Yes, that.
Yeah, I can't hear a word you just said,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I would just tell my younger self and younger kids now that it is always going to be cool. Do what you want to. So I've always been shunned as a black girl that was speaking properly in elementary school, middle school, high school. It was always a problem for me to be in like the science classes and the math class getting grades. It was like, okay, she doesn't know how to have fun. She's just about her work. You, Kiara, would know that because we were one of like we were two of like five black girls in high school in a science program. So it took a lot. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but it took a lot to accept myself for being smart, for wanting to pursue careers in science and STEM. And I would just like to say to the younger kids, and I wish I knew that, and I wish I had other people to follow when I was younger, just to be comfortable in who you are and know that it is okay. And to do it's way less stress on your life to do what you actually like to do. So if you like science, do that. If you like math, do it. And when you get it, it will be less stressful. Bless.
Run into it. We run into it. Okay. You good? You good? I don't know if she could see me, but we're gonna go on. Now, the reason why all of us are connected is because of our HBCUs. So tell me the best thing about being not only an HBCU alumni, but a Black person in the STEM field. So what is the best thing about it? What makes you like, yes, I'm waking up every morning, I'm repping my school, because we all know have that HBCU pride. And I know we go against each other, but we still love each other. So what are the best things of both worlds, and how has the best things of both worlds helped you in your world?
I'll go. So, I mean, the best thing about going to HBCU is homecoming. No, I'm just kidding. We could go on all night about that. I know it's a sore subject because we're not going to be at homecoming this year, but no, I think the best thing for me, I think of having attended an HBCU is it's just something. I don't know if anybody else shares the same feeling, but you like walked on hollow ground. Like there are people before you have come and done so much. I love the name drop because Langston Hughes, Thurgood Marshall, all are graduates of Lincoln University. But I think just having that feeling and that sense of pride. So I think this is probably a term a lot of people have said, through the past 6-7 months, Black is not a monolith. So originally from Philadelphia, I'm Black American. I would try to immerse myself in a lot of different cultural experiences, but I think my HBCU helped me connect and immerse, myself in Black culture, from far and wide. So I think, of course, my African American experience course, my freshman year took me to different levels where it helped, instill a different type of sense of pride in being Black, and then a pride in being a Black woman, and teaching you how to really, hold your head high and know who you are in this world, but to also know you came from such greatness, and you're continuing in this line of greatness. So I think that's one of the biggest pieces I hold near and dear to me, because if it wasn't for my HBCU, I wouldn't have made it this far. I have, gone on to this place, and I say it, it may be cliche, but I have made, lifelong family members. Like, these are not just friends. Like, this is my family. I see them, they know me, I stay connected with them. And I think just not just your own specific HBCU, but HBCUs in general. I mean, even in my graduate experience, I've had people that were from different HBCUs, and it's just this connection when you're at PWIs and you link up with somebody, you're like, oh, you went to this school, okay, HBCU connect. And it's from there on out, you kind of take care of each other. You want to nurture each other. You want to have that sense of community. So I just think, that for me, just having this pride in who I am and being Black and knowing what it means, and, all different types of level, and being exposed to so many different types of Blackness, is one of the biggest and best things for me. I know you had a second part of the question, but I got so carried away with that first part.
What's the best part about being in STEM?
I think for me, it's probably a 2-part answer I would give. I think one is proving people wrong.
Oh, I
so
love this.
It's like, to see the shock on their face, kind of what Stephen was saying. Like, when you go in the room, they're like, oh, Dr. Chisholm. And they like looking around like, Dr. Chisholm, I'm right here, y'all. And they're like, oh, okay.
Okay.
And they have so many questions running through their mind, but I just like that feeling of shock. And then also kind of putting a face to what, a scientist looks like, what it looks like, it gives me this, like, I don't know, it just makes me laugh and it makes me feel good inside. But then I think my second part is, my family, those who are coming after me. So I don't have kids, but I have younger siblings. I have, nieces and nephews. I have cousins. And to have somebody in the family, growing up, all I knew was either a medical doctor or a lawyer. So when people kept saying doctor, doctor, I was like, I don't even like blood, so that's out of the question. Until I didn't know what a PhD was until I got to Lincoln. Mm-hmm. So I think at that part, it's like you get to expose others, and then let them know that they can do it. Because if I made it this far, I know, anybody else can make it. I think just having that piece where you can be that exposure where other people can gravitate towards you and can help them get to where they want to be, it just brings me joy. So that's my answer.
I love it. I love when my family walks around calling me doc. Like my uncle thinks it's the best thing. My niece is going to be the doctor. They think it's
Yes,
the best thing in the world, and I'm just like, I'm not there yet. But I like the way it sounds.
you speak it into existence. You claim it. You
I like the way
claim it.
it sounds. I like the way it sounds.
You
You know
claim
what?
it. Claim it.
It's true. You know what else I like too? Although it gets a little bit annoying, but I like when people ask you questions about things.
Mhm.
Like they'll send you questions like, so what do you think of this? Or have you seen this article? Is this true? And then sometimes I'm just like, all right, stop asking me questions. And other times it's like, man, people really are confident in what I think and what I study to be like, I'm gonna listen to her today. Okay, keep listening to me. That's fine.
It's a good feeling.
It's a great feeling. I
Can I
know.
just make one point because I wanted to nerd out just a little bit.
Go ahead,
So I
nerd.
think my PhD, I appreciate it because I literally spent 5 years. So I played around with, bacteria and E. coli. And I became, an expert in the field. And it's like I never will have another time in my life where I spent that much time. At the moment, I felt like it felt like forever and it was never going to end. But I think feeling and having that experience to become the expert in something so, just basic research question and you being an expert get to play around and learn so much. It's really a moment where I love it. I love bench work. It was something that I was, I'm extremely passionate about still. But then I think there I found my deeper passion and advocacy in STEM education. But I think that's my little nerd moment. So
I love it.
I'm done.
Anybody else wants to say the best part about being an HBCU alumni?
I like to chime in. I like to chime in. Yeah, I think that as Christina also said, like if I wear my Clark Atlanta shirt and I'm going to a museum here in DC and they're like, oh, I went to Morehouse, went to Clark. It's instant connection. It's instant conversation immediately. Even just me wearing a t-shirt like that. And I know I've told my family too, like going to Florida State, I'm not giving no money back to Florida State. I'm gonna keep it above. But Clark is going to get my money. I'm going to be sending more money, and I'm going to try to take it directly to the chemistry department. And it's also very rewarding to have a relationship with my advisor at the time. That was a love-hate relationship then, but it's more love now, and just being able for him to be proud of other accomplishments outside. Like, for instance, I just have a patent granted. I have an invention I'm working on. I do little, hobby type things, but I wanted to say that it's very rewarding being in the STEM field. It's just very rewarding. For me, it was the travel. I got to travel a lot when I was at Clark, all expenses paid. At Clark Atlanta, I went to South Africa for a week. And not only with the travel, we got to come together even closer as colleagues when you're, let's say, study one night, do your poster in the morning, have fun later. But just the different aspects you can see your colleagues in and being able to hang out with them. And it was just a lot of fun. I got to travel. And as many of my colleagues have said too, all of my schooling was paid for. I had a grant on top of that it is an income. So I just want to say it's very rewarding being in the STEM field.
I just want to chime in that I love wearing paraphernalia to the airport because you get so much attention and free things. I love it. Go ahead, Kendra.
Yeah. Favorite part about going to an HBCU, I think Christina said it, like you don't automatically think diversity because you're like, oh, everybody's going to be Black. And while the majority of the student population is Black, there are still other students who represent other demographics. But even still, my grandmother says, being the only fly in a bowl of milk, being the only Black face in white spaces. At an HBCU, you're not the only Black face in a white space. It's several Black faces from different parts of the world that you may not have ever even thought that you would ever visit or have a connection to. Like one of my line sisters is from Rancho Cucamonga, California, and says, for sure, right? I've met Black people from Jersey, from New York, from Oakland, from different walks of life, with two-parent households, single-parent households, just this diverse population to where it even expands and opens my own eye against the stereotypes that have perpetuated on the television, on the screen, on the silver screen. You know, like there's only one type of Black person. That's not true. There's Black people from every single walk of life, rich people, poor people, middle class people, all types of people. And so that's one of the things that I really appreciate about my HBCU exposure. As far as being in the STEM field, I think one of the shock, because I would say I'm fairly young still. I haven't even hit 30 yet. And being on an airplane, going to a conference, and or someone saying, "So, what do you do?" You know, small talk on the plane, and I'm just like, "Oh, I'm a scientist," and they look like, "What?" Like,
I love that expression.
A scientist? That just sounds like one of those made up things. Like, no, I am a scientist.
That's true.
I can't brag and say I'm a scientist anymore because I'm at a pharmaceutical company. But when I was still doing bench research, it was just fun to see that look, you know, and or tell them, you know, oh yes, I'm at the University of Chicago, the #3 school in the United States. It was just like slight flex. So that's I think I enjoyed that.
Just to like add on to that though, I'm finally here, guys. Thank you so much for bearing with me. But I was listening to all of you guys kind of. But yeah, just, you know, especially during like these COVID eras and I'm working in the hospital and it's like, oh, people are asking questions about COVID. And when I actually have an opinion, because I'm like front and center with COVID right now, working in the hospital, it's like, oh, you're so young. Or, you know, they outright don't say, "Oh, you're Black. Like, what do you know about that? Why are you in those spaces?" kind of thing. So it's like I still get that, but I love being from an HBCU, especially when I go into the hospital with like my Spelman sweatshirt, and people are like, now that I guess Beyonce and all of the celebrities kind of made it a little bit popular. You know, HBCU's always been popular, but you know, now it's mainstream and they're like, "Oh, you went to Spelman and you're in the hospital and you're doing this." And then especially when I say like, you know, I'm applying to medical school, "Oh my God, good for you." And it's just like it's still that same space, but I love flexing like you said, like Kendra said. I love that flex. Like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Like I went to an HBCU and I am in the STEM field and I belong here.
Wait, so let me flex real quick. Hold on. So Donnell and I have been best friends since high school. So whenever people ask me like how Kendra said, or what do you do? And I hit them with, I'm a chemist kind of thing. It's like the what type of thing? But then it gets better when I get to say each best friend of mine is some type of scientist. Like that one just blows people's minds. It's like, oh my God, all these Black girls are doing this. I'm like, yes, we do this. We definitely do.
We're here.
We're here, loud and proud and strong and in charge. Um, we're gonna open up the floor for questions. We'll still keep the conversation going, but the first one is, what resources can students look into for more STEM career opportunities? Anyone can take it.
Okay. So I feel like I haven't said anything, but just know that STEM doesn't automatically mean doctor. Because I feel like growing up, whenever you've heard about science, especially in the Black community, it's always been a doctor. There are people like us working with NIH, working with CDC, working with WHO. Like there are so many different factors. Like, I mean, STEM, the acronym, just know what it means. Like science, technology, engineering, math. I think they're trying to add art to it now. I'm not sure how that's going to go. But just know that there are different factors of being a STEM major, and it doesn't always mean that you are going to medical school or you need to be a doctor. So you can be interested in that computer program over there and want to be coding or whatever it is. So try and figure out where your niche is and what you're actually interested in. And don't be turned off from the fact that as soon as you hear STEM, it just means medical school. Know that there are different, I guess, career opportunities to use the words of the question. And we are in all of those different opportunities, and just look for us, even though all kinfolk ain't skin, like, yeah.
Don't do
But
it.
still look for us.
Don't do it. Anyone else?
Yes, there are a lot of resources. The Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation, the TRIO programs in your, if there's TRIO in your city, Upward Bound, National Science Foundation, Robert Wood Johnson. I could name a lot, but I think the biggest thing, because it's going to be hard to remember, the grant application is like a foreign language if you've never done it. The biggest thing is reaching out to people who look like you and just, hi, cold calling, building the confidence to just meet a stranger, right? Because you never know who is going to be willing to talk to you. I know that's gotten me pretty far, just reaching out to strangers. That's how I ended up getting an interview at the NIH. That's how I ended up getting interviews for all the postdoc positions that I got offers for. Just, hi, I'm Kendra. What's your name? It sounds corny. It sounds lame,
Works.
but it works. And
Works.
you'd be surprised how many resources you can find just by doing it.
I think mentorship is very important. Stefan is my mentor. And when I tell you he puts me in positions to do so many great things, like that mentorship is so important. And you can get a job from your mentor, believe it or not, depending on what they're doing, or they might know somebody who needs somebody else. So that networking is important for STEM career opportunities. It's super important. Anybody?
And I just want to say on that part, networking, HBCUs, they put you in that position. Not saying that PWIs are not good enough, but like for us, HBCUs, that networking, that's top tier.
Definitely.
It is. Believe it or not, even though you stick out like a sore thumb, you can really disappear at a PWI. You can flow under the radar. You can not meet anybody. I don't really know anybody from my HBCU except my roommate and my lab mates. At an HBCU though, I know every single, even if we weren't in the same major, same class, I know every single person that was on that campus the same time that I was. And at any given moment, I know for a fact that I can reach out to them. As a network, as a colleague, are you hiring? Do you know somebody who's hiring? It's a network that expands beyond what you could even imagine.
Okay. We have another question. What internship opportunities would you recommend students look into?
So, yeah, I'm speaking from a HBCU, well, from an A&T perspective. And so two things, well, three things. So one, and I'm sure it's like this at other HBCUs as well, but at A&T we have a very like huge career fair, really twice a year. So once every semester, um, we have all sorts of companies, government agencies from Microsoft, Intel, Google, Department of Energy, Education, any company you could ever think about, they come and they recruit looking for interns and full time employees. Um, the second thing, whatever institution you decide to go to, look into summer bridge programs because more times than not, those programs are sponsored by companies and those companies like to track those students. So specifically at A&T, we have the home program where they bring in incoming freshmen, and those freshmen are guaranteed an internship from whoever the company is that's a corporate sponsor, um, during that program. So you're guaranteed an internship your freshman year. If you like it, if you perform well, then you can go back, every summer throughout college. You can do a co-op, and eventually you can work there full time if that's really what you want. And then the last thing is to look into undergraduate research opportunities. So specifically in STEM, if you're curious about research, or even if you're not sure that you want to go into corporate America, maybe you want to see, what research is all about. Um, they have the LSANT program, where they pay undergraduate students to do research throughout the semester, and I'm not sure if they do summer employment as well, but there's a lot of different opportunities that are out there. So you know, like they were saying before, network, and also just talk to your professors, talk to any professionals you may know. Um, you know, Being at a HBCU is like you're a part of a family at your own institution, but you're a part of like a bigger family across like all HBCUs. So you can reach out to anybody. And you can talk to anybody. And if they don't know somebody, like if they don't have the information you're looking for, I promise you they know somebody that does, or they know somebody that may know somebody that does. So I mean, yeah, just talk to people, and keep your eyes out. I mean, keep your eyes open for like different opportunities.
And I'd like to interject as well. Clark Atlanta University's motto is "Find a way or make one." And I know for me, finding an internship was not easy. I don't know what it was. My fourth year of my PhD, so and I'm sending out applications everywhere. I'm going to conferences. I'm going to the career fairs, everything. I'm sending my application, but I just want to encourage you, when you're sending out your applications for internships, you only need one yes. You're gonna get many no's. All you need is one yes. I think after sending out, I don't know how many applications I sent out, I got two yeses, and I had the opportunity to choose for my internship, and I wound up taking an internship at L'Oreal in New Jersey for 3 months over the summer, which is a little odd for a PhD student, right? But at the time I was writing my dissertation. I was like, I might as well spend a summer. I had to spend a summer away from my family. But let me tell you, L'Oreal paid very well. The apartment that they put us in was like a hotel merger apartment. I got to spend time in New York, New Jersey. But I just want to encourage you that it takes only one yes. It may not, internships may be hard to come by for some. I know it was for me. But I just want to just encourage you, like when you're trying to get your internships, when you're an undergrad, just don't give up, because it's very competitive. It is extremely competitive. I just want to say, don't give up, and keep like Gabriel said, just keep at it, keep searching, and keep trying. And you only need one yes.
I love it. Okay, so we're coming down to the end, but there's another question. What are some ways you all give back to your HBCUs? There are a lot of HBCUs losing funding.
So, I mean, to be honest, I recently graduated from my PhD about almost 3 years ago. So I didn't always have the funds to give necessarily because I was a graduate student, but I would always be sure to, be able to help and expand someone else's network. So, we would have annual science fairs. I would make it my, duty to go to the science fair, reach out to people, and not only just reach out, but also use as a way to recruit. So I, finagle my way at UMass to become, they needed diversity. So let's keep it real. Y'all want diversity? I can bring out diversity. So I would work with other professors and want to actually help expand the pipeline from Lincoln to UMass because we had such close connections with professors. And I thought it'd be awesome for, as a student, for me to go and take some students to be able to, get to see the campus, explore, and then also be able to go for internship opportunities. So I would make sure I would at least get 5 to 6 students that I could get their contact information, have applications that I know that they could fill out real quick, send it to, the people that were in charge of different research opportunities, whether it be in the College of Engineering or, social sciences, but specifically in the Department of Chemistry, really have students be engaged and want to, come to at least visit or try out UMass for the summer. So I think by helping to build and be a stepping stone for a networking connection.
Yeah, one of the ways that I give back, when I was in grad school, I always came back and spoke. I, in front of the undergraduate students, telling them about the different opportunities that UAB offered to students and internship opportunities that were in the Minority Health and Health Disparities Research Center. The other thing that I do, so I mentioned when we first got on that I have a nonprofit organization. And one arm of that nonprofit, in addition to the podcast, the blog site, is a scholarship foundation. And so last year we actually gave two $1,500 scholarships to deserving STEM majors at Stillman College. The goal is to expand that to other HBCUs, but we obviously need donations. But I made it my mission to say, okay, even if I have to use my own personal income, my tax refund, we're going to make this happen, and we're going to give this scholarship. And so that's growing, and we're going to continue to make that an annual pledge to give at least two $1,500 scholarships to STEM majors at HBCUs. So that's me doing my little piece.
I will say that you don't always have the funds that you want to give, but when you get there, it's like, yes, I can do this. But when I didn't have the funds, one of the ways I gave back was I would email professors in the chemistry department and ask them, like, what are the new students like? And if they needed help, they needed to talk to somebody, they had questions about this particular professor or this class or anything like that. And it's like, yeah, share my email, let me talk to them, type of thing. And I also like to keep the alumni network strong. So when the class graduated this year, alumni was donating 2020 to the new graduates, kind of thing. And it was just like, they were just like, oh my God, I love the alumni. And I'm just like, you're family now. Like, we have to support you so that you want to continue to support the others that's coming through also. So I think that, like, keeping in touch with your departments is like a great idea. And yeah, that's that.
I definitely, like, I'm not in a financial position to give back much. But I do still keep in contact with a lot of, like, I try to recruit, even though I'm not on the staff at the school. I try to recruit for the AUC, Spelman, Morehouse, Clark Atlanta. I have a few of my actual little brothers and sisters that are currently at Morehouse and Spelman right now. I try to be a listening ear, a mentor, because I feel like I am still in the process of finding my way, if you want to call it that, because I am applying to medical school still. So I am kind of still on that level of graduates from Spelman specifically that they're not sure if they want to do research, if they want to go to medical school, or what they want to do after Spelman. So that's how I give back, considering that I am not in the financial position right now to actually give like endowment money.
Anyone else? Stephen?
I mean, I think it's been mainly said. I do have some funds I will be putting aside soon, but also just as someone else said, I've recruited students to Clark Atlanta University. Clark's making money off them. But no, but
okay, you still on campus? No,
but seriously speaking, I do keep in touch with my advisors, and we chat, and I also feel like representing an HBCU and specifically Clark Atlanta University, the publicity. Like recently, something odd happened, right, Kiara? MC Hammer saw one of my
publications. Yes, MC Hammer.
Yeah, MC Hammer saw one of my publications on Twitter, and he has 3 million followers. And he said, "Great job on this paper." It was on metal organic frameworks many years ago. And I said, "I'm from Clark Atlanta University. We do high-level research. I've had great colleagues around the country that I publish his work with. Thank you for the kudos." I mean, just small things like that can help change the perception of some of the smaller HBCUs. And that, as I've told many people before, we did great work. We do great work that can stand up against chemistry around the world. So I think that's one part of it too.
Gabe, you said you had something to add.
Yeah, so I'd say the biggest thing is outreach. So, I mean, I think we touched on recruiting, we touched on, giving back when you can. Um, but one thing that I was doing up until COVID, so the last 4 or 5 years, um, I was holding a summer camp for middle school and high school students at A&T, every summer. Um, and so I was basically teaching them my thesis. Um, and so, um, we had Intel sponsor the camp, and I was doing that each summer. We were able to fund like um, like up to four PhD students for their work during the summer because, as some of you probably know, um, getting summer funding can be tough depending on your situation. um, and then we also were able to give students that confidence because, I was literally teaching them what I was doing for my master's, and it wasn't, the level of the concepts didn't matter. It was just, the way the information was presented to them. And so I think we got, um, a few of them that came to A&T, they came into the department. I think one graduated just now, and so he's coming back for his master's. And so we started creating like a pipeline from middle school, high school to college, and I mean beyond.
Love. All right, lovely people. Are there any closing remarks you'd like to say? Any last words of advice? If you want to plug yourself in really quickly about things that you're doing so that the kids can be like, yeah, I'm coming too, kind of thing. Now is the time. Yes.
I just want to say, don't be shy. I'm speaking from like personal experience. I know the main theme of tonight was networking. Um, I will be honest, I lost out on a lot because I was completely shy. I was not trying to talk to anybody, but I just want to say, like, coming up, just know that you have to, it's easier said than done, but try to push that shyness, that reserved personality aside if you're trying to get ahead. Because as we've been seeing and as we've always known, we have to work 10 times as hard. So don't make the same mistakes. I mean, I sound like an older person, like really old, but don't make the same mistakes that I did. And I know a lot of people did, like just being like, oh, I'll figure it out. My smarts, my brain will get me ahead. Like it's really like growing up and graduating from an HBCU is really about who you know. It really is. Like people, when you get to an HBCU, they'll be like, "Oh, it's half about what you know, but it's really about who you know." That networking, that's the important part. Also know your stuff, but like the networking is really what it is. So don't be hesitant to reach out to anybody on this panel or me specifically or anybody else that you would know that is interested in what you're interested in. Just try and push that shyness aside.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and I was going to say the same exact thing because I was completely like I was overly shy and I didn't want to bother anybody. So I had this thing where I was like, "Oh, I don't want to bother. I don't want to, they're busy, they're doing this. This is the perfect time now to start with this panel to just get used to it." You're right. It doesn't, feel good at first, but it does get easier once you get the practice. Start now building a network and getting that practice. I think one thing that helped was learning to just be a little uncomfortable. Try new stuff. Get uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because when you start getting uncomfortable, that's when you start getting in spaces of growth. And you'll start to see opportunities just fall into your lap. But it has to start with you trying and just getting out there. Putting yourself out there does not feel good. But you can hit me up because I'll teach you how to do it because I do
She
it with my
sure
students
will.
day in and day out. And I do it because I know how it used to feel. It would give me anxiety. I would be up trying to look over an email. How do I say this? How do I say, does that sound dumb? Don't overthink it. Just do
Yes.
it. And the more you start doing it, it's literally like riding a bike. You'll get used to it. It'll become second nature and you won't feel shy about it. And then you start to hear yourself. You'll find your voice and that'll help you become a better you. So don't be shy. We have given our contact information for a reason. Feel free to reach out because this is how you actually learn. It's that exposure piece. So I completely agree with you. Do not be shy. Just do it. Reach out. Start somewhere. You got to start here.
I have a catchphrase that I say at the end of my podcast and at the beginning. It's okay to feel stupid, but don't you dare stay that way. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. There were many a day where I felt like I didn't know what I was talking about, but I pretended like I did. I faked it till I made it. And then eventually I did know what I was talking about. If you do not feel silly or stupid in some capacity, it means you're not challenging yourself and it means you're not trying. So especially when you're in a field like STEM, you're going to be hit with stuff that you've never heard of before, especially if you're going that extra level and developing a thesis or a dissertation. You are literally paving a way through the unknown. And you should feel proud when you're like, nobody has ever done this before. I am a discoverer. I am a voyager. And yes, I feel stupid as all get out. But then when you come out on that other end and you find out a small piece to the puzzle that you didn't know before, and it's like, oh my God, wow, that's amazing. We now know this new information because I was not afraid. I was brave enough to keep going and figure out something new. So be okay with having that. Be okay with feeling uncomfortable, like Christina said.
Yeah, I guess my one thing is not to feel intimidated, even by the people in the position that you hope to be in one day. Um, because if I guess my biggest takeaway from obtaining a PhD was that you know going in it was like I'm going to come out an expert, right? And yes, you are an expert on your research topic, but in hindsight, the biggest thing was like, okay, I discovered this, I figured this out, but like there's so much more out there to explore and figure out. And so, my PhD taught me a lot, but one thing I tell people is that it taught me how much I don't know or how much like it's still out there to figure out. So like don't I mean, even if you reach out to, one or multiple of us, and I hope that you do, don't feel like, we know it all because we don't. Um, but we're just experienced in figuring things out, and I think that's one thing that you should aim to do, like not only figure things out but just figure out like your process.
Yeah, I think I'll go next. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
no, go ahead.
Okay. I think for me, one thing I would just leave as a takeaway is going through the research and development and things. You really cannot fake passion. Passion is passion. You cannot fake it. I know for me growing up, people wanted me to do this, want to go get this doctor in medicine, this. You really have to find out what's best for you and what you can do with your talents and treasures. People will try to put a career on you and you wind up doing the whole thing and you hate it. The best thing for you to do, and it will be tough, you will find some opposition, but find your passion because that cannot be faked or duplicated. Just do what you have your talent, you have your gift and your treasure, and the world is waiting on it. And so you have what you have specifically because you're unique. So I just want to say, I've learned I can't fake this passion I have for science, for chemistry. For me specifically, I'm an inventor. Nobody told me, it's what I want to do. I love it. So I guess that's my takeaway.
Well, you wonderful, beautiful people, thank you for being on this panel today. And I know somebody's kid was inspired. I can't wait to see these HBCU enrollments just rise up after COVID does her thing or whatever.
Use that information, guys.
Yes, use all the information and the tools. And like they said, don't be hesitant to reach out to anyone on this panel. They will surely help you and guide you in the right way. And thanks to the Hub for having this wonderful panel. And that's all I have for you guys. So, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Yep. Good night.
Good
Have
night.
a good one.
You too.